Welcome to the Dining in the Void Season 1 Q&A. My name is Allison DAUPHINE, my pronouns are she, her, and I'll be appearing in the upcoming season. Before we begin, listeners, please check the description for a list of content warnings and a transcript for this. The cast and crew may spoil plot elements and secrets from Season 1, so please proceed at your own risk. We have a bunch of questions to get through, so before we get started, let's get to know our cast and crew.
Hello, my name is Ali Hylton. I use she, her pronouns. I am the creator and head writer for the show.
My name is Arizona Jonson. I use she, her pronouns, and I play Tala, and I'm also a producer and writer for the show.
Hi, I'm Ari, they, them, and I am the voice of Aveline Lion, and I was the sound editor and script editor for Season 1.
Hi, my name is Benny James. I use she, he, they pronouns, and I am the musical composer for Dining in the Void.
Hello, I am Sterling Ray, or more often known as Lenny. I use she, they pronouns, and I voice Waverly Black.
Hi, my name is EMMETT. I use he, him pronouns, and I play Mars Cope.
Hello, everybody. My name is RHEA. My pronouns are she, they, and I play Joe in Dining in the Void.
Hello, my name's Dylan, he, him pronouns, and I play Sawyer Green.
My name is CEDRIC REEVE, pronouns are he, him, and I play Elory Green.
Hello, I'm VIVIAN Faye, use she, her pronouns, and I play G on the show.
Hi, my name is Belle. I use the pronouns she, her, and I play Katie Belle on the show.
That's everyone from Season 1. Let's get to the questions. These first few questions are for everyone who was introduced. Our first one is from Raccoon Bandit on Discord. Who's your favorite character and why?
My favorite character has to be Phoenix because she embodies a lot of myself, I think. She's very helpful and optimistic, and she reminds me a lot of the good parts of myself, and also I just want to protect her so much. It was really hard to kill her off, but I love her so much, and high-key my favorite. But, you know, don't tell all the others.
I think my favorite would probably have to be Galatea, just because she's so much fun, not only to write, but just to listen to her. And, of course, Molly brings such a eccentricity and yet kind of like a fun to Galatea, despite the fact that she goes through so much. Well, actually, it's the fact that she goes through so much. Plus, she's still trying to maintain this kind of like, she's always on, if that makes sense. Even though she's not an actor, she has this sort of persona that people associate with her. So she, I think for me is the most complex character. And I love complex characters, or I try to write her as complex. And not just this like, I have sex with a lot of people, because she's more than that. She's got a lot more going on, and she has, you know, a complicated backstory and stuff.
This is an unpopular opinion. My favorite character is Joe. Not because they're a good person. They're a shitty person. They're terrible. But I love them because they're a very interesting character. And they're just so chaotic and lawless, and I think that's very fun, but also kind of terrifying.
My favorite character is Waverly, mostly because she's a really cool character, but also because Waverly is voiced by Sterling Ray, previously known as Molly Ray, who won a Audioverse Podcasting Award for Best Supporting Actress in the Ensemble Role for a Dramatic Production. And Sterling and I have been friends in real life since we were 13 years old, and I just love her to death, and I was really happy to see her be so successful. And just getting to hear her bring life to Waverly in every episode makes me really proud to know her and be her friend.
Is it biased to say Waverly? I really want to say Waverly, so I'm gonna say Waverly. I really like Waverly because she is my soft queen. I love her to death. I think she's this really cool character who manages to balance this soft and badass at the same time. Because, like, when you think about what she's gone through and what she's done, she's really friggin' badass. But you don't think that because of how careful she tends to be. And I really like that about her. I think she's fun. But if I'm not allowed to say Waverly, because it's biased or some reason like that, I'm gonna say Katie Belle, because I love her and her silly little puns, and I think it's really cute.
Favorite character and why? Is it biased and conceited to say Mars? Because I really fucking love Mars so much. They're great. I don't really get to play villains that's not, or even morally ambiguous characters, shall we say. I tend to get cast as like sweeter characters or more just sarcastic sidekicky kind of characters. So this was they're a really fun character to play because they get to be an angry, depressed bastard who just kind of is annoyed with lots of things and tries to murder someone once and then does murder a bunch of people. Well, technically genocide. So, like, that I don't support myself, but they're a really interesting character to play.
For me, my favorite character would have to be Katie Belle. And that's mainly because I resonate so much with her character. She's just, I don't know. She looks on the bright side of things. She tries to be a mediator in the group, when tensions are high or when everyone feels discouraged. She tries to look on the brighter side of things. She tries to be optimistic. And, I really appreciate that. Like, I really like that about Katie Belle. And also, she loves puns. I cannot deny the love of a character when puns are involved. I cannot do it. She's just Katie Belle. Beautiful, precious, wholesome, and I love her.
Can't really say Sawyer. That'd be cheating, I think. Honestly, that's a tough one. I think I'm torn between Elory, Sawyer's husband, and Galatea. I love scenes with Elory because CEDRIC is just such an amazing voice actor, and being able to work with him in some very emotionally charged scenes, especially towards the end, was phenomenal. And I just really love the banter, the cheeky banter that Sawyer and Galatea have. I don't know. I like their sort of friendship dynamic they have going on.
I'd have to say my favorite character is probably Sawyer, but I might be a little biased because he is my husband. For me, listening to Dining in the Void, it was really fun just listening to him sort of be the straight man, as it were. But then also hearing the difference when he is actually talking to me or G, because he does really care about us. So hearing that he is capable of expressing those feelings, but then usually he has his strict businessman calm. It was always really fun for me to listen to.
I really like Sawyer and Elory, probably just because I paid closest attention to their characters, but they really are good dads. They try their hardest. They're doing their best for their little kid. And I really like them I like their relationship a lot more than I just like each character alone.
My favorite character is Galatea because I really, really like characters that are over the top, doing everything 100% to the maximum and being extremely extra. So, yeah, she's got all the extra qualities, I'd say that.
Our second question is, what's your favorite and least favorite part of season 1?
My favorite part of season 1 has to be watching the show come to life. From the beginning of just basic idea, like a little dream I had, to what we have now, like music, characters, voices, like, oh, it's so cool. And I remember like that first read through with all the cast was just so amazing because it was like the first real time the show was like born and existed. So it was really cool. My least favorite part was how I scheduled everything, I think, because I pushed myself with unrealistic deadlines and expectations for myself, which now I know not to do. And I mean, I've learned from it, and that's important. Learning from your mistakes is always important, but I wish I would have known ahead of time.
Favorite part of season 1 in terms of the story, I think would probably be, I really liked that monologue that Tala has in episode 11. I just like episode 11, to be honest. Not because I wrote it solely, which I did, but I like it because we get a lot of kind of new stuff, I guess, or we get a little bit of payoff for some things that have been hinted at. With Tala and her identity, we finally get to know what that is. It is a bit of an info dumping episode, and I grant it was like, I think, the second longest episode, so that was a little bit of sort of self-indulgence, but I really like it. My least favorite part of season 1, story-wise, I'm just thinking from a writer perspective. I don't know that I have a least favorite part. I think probably episode 5, because it's just everybody fucking arguing, and that gets pretty tiresome pretty quickly. And not to be critical of the first episode I wrote on my own, but I think I would have done it differently had I taken more time to work it through and to integrate it into the plot, if that made sense. Like, make it make more sense.
Well, my least favorite is probably a tie between... Oh, wait, is this behind the scenes stuff, or is this like things that happen in the show? Behind the scenes stuff would be either trying to figure out episode 4 and that chaos that went with it, or when I spoiled who the host was for myself. Not my finest moment. Oh God. Yeah, so that was a fun time. Least favorite thing that happens in the show? God, I just hate everything that is done to Tala. Like, that's just so sad. And yeah, Galatea, she really got the short end of the stick with regards to episode 3. That sucked. Favorite behind the scenes thing was probably finishing episode, like that final episode. It was very fulfilling, and I felt very accomplished. No, actually I didn't. I take that back. That was really stressful because I did it when I got to college. That actually sucked. I mean, favorite part, so I'll go back to episode 12. Episode 12 was a bitch to put together, but at the end I was very happy with the results, I'd say. That was a pain to put together, but I really liked how that turned out. I'd also say that for what my favorite part of the actual show.
I think my favorite part of season 1 is the end of the very last episode, the end of the season 1 finale, when Galatea has the gun and there's the fight and she's threatening to shoot whoever the host is. And I really like that part because I got to write the climactic ending piece of music that's it's a redo of part of the main theme song, which is probably easy to tell, but I added different instruments and I added a chorus part, and it was super duper cool to write. And then when I got to hear it in the episode and just how much it amped up the drama and the tension, it felt really cool to listen to. So that's my favorite part of season 1. My least favorite part is the game show part because personally, the song I wrote for the game show, the electronic one that goes like do 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 do, that's my best impression of it. But I feel like what I wrote is too repetitive, and personally I'm annoyed by it, and so it just ruins the scene for me. So I just don't listen to that episode anymore.
Oh, I know it's not technically season 1, but I really like the Waverly bonus episode. Is that a spoiler to say? I really like it because I'm conceited and I love to know more about my small child. No, but I think it's a really cool backstory. That's all I'll say. But I really like that one. If that doesn't count, I'm gonna say the introductions in episode 1 I thought were really, really cool because it's just a little snippet of these characters and who they are, and so I think that's really cool. I always like how you first meet them, because then it slowly changes over the season. It always does. It always does. No one is ever the same when the first time you meet them. Least favorite, I don't really have any least favorites, but I do have a part that was really interesting to record. So as you may know, or may not know, Bio is not from the United States. Not where I'm from, at least. So, we obviously couldn't record a kiss behind the microphone together. So the kiss that we used was me kissing my hand. Yeah, I read the stage direction, and I'm like, I don't know what they want, but you know what? This is what's going in, and I hope you enjoy it. And then they used it, so yeah, those kisses that you hear between Waverly and Katie Belle, that's Lenny kissing her old hand. Yeah, so it wasn't really my least favorite part, but definitely an interesting thing I had to do. So I'll leave that as that, because I didn't really have a least favorite part.
So my favourite part was probably working with all the incredible voice actors and writers and directors that are on this show, because they're all really cool people and they're really good. One of my other favourite parts of season 1 is Galatea, because in my head I can't really remember the name Galatea, so in my head she's Gelato, because that makes sense. So yeah, I didn't really have a least favourite part. There were bits I didn't love as much, but that's my cat again. My least favourite part of just recording in general is the cat noises, because I've got 4 of them and they're constant.
My favorite part of season 1 is Tala and Galatea's dynamic. The growth of their relationship over the season. I loved it. I thought it was just it was beautiful. I just loved it because I never expected it to happen. And, you know, I never would have thought that the person that Tala would become close to would be Galatea, especially when you listen to the first episode, and Galatea kind of comes off as kind of posh and snobby, and you wouldn't think that she has, you know, very close friends. But then as you keep listening to the episodes, she gets closer to Tala, and Tala considers Galatea one of the closest and most trustworthy people on the ship. And I love it. I love it. That's development right there. And it's great. My least favorite part of season 1 would have to be any time that Joe, funny enough, would torture anybody. Especially Galatea in episode 3. It was my least favorite part, because it's just like, I don't like it when people get hurt. I just have this thing where I don't like it. It makes me sad, and it's just sad. Especially Galatea, like, she's done nothing wrong. No, she's so good. Please don't hurt her. Don't worry, Joe is gonna get what's a coming, I think. I don't know. I hope so.
I think favorite has to be when Sawyer and Elory are having their goodbye moment, because, like I mentioned before, I love being able to do those sort of emotionally charged scenes with CEDRIC, and I think it just turned out so well. In terms of least favorite, any part that doesn't have me, I'm kidding for the most part. The episode 3 was a tough one to record. The whole game show portion, that was a tough one to get through. There's some stuff that happens, and it was a lot.
I think my favorite part of season 1 is probably just listening to Galatea, because her attitude is just fun to listen to. And my least favorite part is probably losing my giant daughter in the air ducts.
I really like the episodes that I'm in, specifically the one where I'm with Elory and Sawyer, and I'm sort of just like running around everywhere, and I'm snotting all over Mars, and that was a really fun episode. I didn't really have as much fun. I didn't like the first episode that I recorded that I was in. where I was a creepy kid. Partially because my mic sucked, and then listening back, like, I hated that. But you know, it was still a fun time. I like when I'm in the show.
My favorite part of season 1 has to be Joe's game. I remember the first time I read it through, I was very shocked, and after the first read-through that we had, I think everybody on the cast kind of had a moment of, oh gosh, that's amazing. I think that the casting is very well done and the writing is really, really good, and overall it's one of the parts that really stuck with me. My least favorite part of season 1, I think, would have to be Sawyer's family getting on board. I think they're both adorable and I love them very much, and seeing them get aboard this nightmare of a spaceship is really achy, breaking my heart, I'd say. So I'm not in for that, but I really, really like them.
Here's a kinda spoilery one from Flickr on Discord. Who does Galatea shoot?
I have no idea. It's probably me. Or maybe it'd be really interesting if it was Sawyer, but I have a feeling it's not going to be Sawyer, because everyone loves him.
Well, I hope she doesn't shoot me, because that'd suck. Who does Galatea shoot? I think if Galatea was going to shoot anybody, it would probably be... I almost want to say Waverly, but I have no real reason to think that.
So I think that Galatea shoots someone that hasn't been introduced yet.
Personally, I think she shoots Aveline Lyon. I think that's what she does. I don't know. I'm trying to think from Galatea's point of view as to who she would, who and why she would shoot anyone on the ship. But maybe I'm projecting my theory onto Galatea's character, because like Aveline was very shady in episode 12. I don't know how anyone else thinks that, but like for me, she felt very shady. We don't know what she was doing in the garage with Elory, with Elory's ship, and I'm highly suspicious. It's very suspicious. And also, she also has like the skills like to investigate everyone's backstory and try to figure things out. I don't know. She has something. She has a lot on her plate, and I feel like when you put that together, Galatea may try to do something about it.
Oh boy, isn't that the question? I mean, I'd love to tell you, but at the same time, I can't. And no, I wouldn't tell you. I'd make you guys suffer. It's a fun time. Let's just say that. And yeah, we'll see how people react to that. I'm very excited.
Oh, you know, just Griffin McElroy voice, you know.
I don't know. Even if I did, I don't legally think I'm allowed to tell you. But I think Galatea shoots Tala. Like, I think that would be cool. Be a little bit of a twist. She fucking shoots the AI so that Tala is, like, you know, out of commission or, like, destroyed or something like that. I think it'd be cool.
I actually know the answer to that question. I will say, though, that reading the end of season 1 was very, very emotional, and reading about Galatea shooting was very, very shocking to me, to say the least.
This one's just for the actors. What is something new you've brought to your character?
That's a good question. It's a little different in my case because I actually got to write my character and help form her that way. Purely from an actor perspective, I tried to play her with a little more nuance, despite the fact that among the guests, she's sort of less important, which is not a bad thing. It's just that we care more about people like Aveline and Galatea and Mars. I'm sort of like there in every episode, but sort of not as important, which is, again, fine. From a writing perspective, I knew Ali already had this sort of thing for Tala, this backstory, but it, for me, didn't really gel in the way that it was developed at first. So I tried to give a little more inkling of, like, Tala trying to go against her programming, trying to help Galatea and other people, and trying to be more than just a robot, or at least be like a sentient robot.
Besides my dashing good looks, obviously, I brought the fact that he doesn't know how to say Mars's last name, because I didn't know how to say Mars's last name. I thought it was Mars Kobe, but it's Kobe. And yeah. So, and I'm pretty sure that worked its way into an actual script eventually. So, hooray for accidental characterization, I guess.
My voice, clearly I'm able to be the lovely voice of Miss Waverly Black, or I suppose it's more Queen. But yeah, my voice is here for you to indulge in.
Everyone else has, like, really, like, clear things that are like, oh, like, I brought my backstory, or I brought this really important character trait. And everything that I've brought is just fucking dumb. Like, a few of the things I can't, like, say because they're, like, spoilery. But, like, or, like, it's this dumb, like, little habit that, like, doesn't play into the actual show at all, but now she has it. But I think, like, the biggest thing is I accidentally renamed Aveline. I mean, her name was originally Aveline, but it was not pronounced that way. I think it was supposed to be either Aveline or Aveline. But, like, I didn't know that. And so during callbacks, I pronounced it Aveline, and then in the read-through, I pronounced it Aveline, and then it just stuck. So now it's Aveline Lion. Also, this was not the voice Aveline originally had. It was always my voice, but I auditioned with a much higher tone, except when we heard, like, so, like, Ali gave us the rough draft of the first version, or the first episode, and I listened to it, and I could not tell my own voice from Sterling, who plays Waverly. And I think part of that was because I recognized most of the Waverly lines, because I was also called back for Waverly. But it was so bad, like, in a sound-oriented, medium, it's pretty important that you can tell who everybody is based on their voice. And I was one of the voices, and I could not tell who, like, when Aveline was speaking and when Waverly was speaking. So, like, 2 nights before release, I do an emergency re-record. And so now Aveline has a much lower pitch. And sometimes it does creep up, but, like, it's generally a lot lower set in my vocal range, and that's honestly more comfortable. But yeah, so that is what I've contributed to my character.
Well, I don't know how many people actually know this, but I brought Katie Belle her fantastical abilities. I'm pretty sure I started with the puns and just kind of got invested into Katie Belle and became a very, very big characteristic. I'm very proud of that, and I really like it because I really like bad puns, and it was very fun to read them aloud and make them up and have fun with them. Have fun with them. Damn.
Something new that I brought to my character is actually just me. It's sort of what everyone brings to their own role, really, because take a character like Mars. The way that EMMETT does Mars and the way that I would do Mars are totally different, and Mars would be a totally different person, so that's sort of the most new thing I can bring to a character is just myself.
I really liked the idea that I like the contrast between when you first meet G as this creepy kid to the real G who's just like, oh my gosh, what is going on, guys? What's up, gamers? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I think a lot of fun with playing G later on is she really is just like a kid, and I get to play with that a lot, and she's very bouncy, and I like that a lot. I think it's something new that maybe was based off of how I started playing her. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think it would be the way that I try to tap into somebody who is so unlike me, the real me. And it was so new because I've never really played like a character like Joe before. And it was new and it was exciting. I remember I would try to talk to Ali about Joe's character and like, okay, what would they do in certain situations? You know, we would do like little like mini headcanons about our characters, and I'll be like, oh yeah, Joe would do this, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what Joe would do. So it's just more like a dark edge, rough edge, very teasing and dark, not afraid to get your hands a little bloody kind of thing. So that's new that I've brought to this character. I've never really done anything like that before, so yeah.
An accent that isn't American? Like I said in a previous answer, I don't get to play morally dubious characters or angry characters or just characters who are kind of assholes, so that was quite cool.
All right, we've got a handful of questions just for Ali Hylton, the show's creator. The first one is a fan question. Unfortunately, we couldn't track down who asked it. But here it is. Why did you want to make this story?
I wanted to make this story because I wanted to make a story I would enjoy, because I remember at the time I was having a hard time finding shows I liked because there wasn't a lot of representation for people like me or my friends, and I wanted to create something that I wanted to see. And I thought the story might be entertaining for other people. At the end of the day, I've always been making the story for me because this is what I want to hear. And lo and behold, other people do as well, which is like really cool. But I wanted to create good, positive representation of different LGBT characters. I wanted it to be a mystery, and I wanted to keep people guessing because those are always my favorite kind of shows. So yeah.
From Flickr in our Discord fan server, are there any concrete visual descriptions or details for any of the characters?
Yes, there are visual descriptions that are concrete, to me at least. The cool thing about podcasting is you can imagine characters however you want, but to me as a creator, these are the descriptions that I have for the characters. For instance, Galatea Ivory. She's a very tall lady whose skin is like ivory, and she's as white as milk. Her hair is very silvery. She's just a very pale character. And this isn't really so much of the physical description as like a Galatea description. When she walks into the room, she seems to take up the place and like fill the room. Like she's a very big personality. Sawyer Green has blue skin and orange, and he's also very tall, which I love the comparison between him and Mars because Mars is so tiny. I believe they're 4'8", which is actually inspired by my friend, and I think it's just adorable. So I was like, I want to make a character that's tiny, and I was like, Mars, you're tiny, and lo and behold, Mars is a tiny human. Waverly, oh my gosh, I love Waverly's descriptions. She's so badass, honestly. She has 4 arms, she can see in the dark, she can climb up walls and through trees and stuff. Like, she's very athletically built, and I really love that about her. Katie Belle Silver is very, like, reptilian, kind of. She has, like, scales and horns and cat ears. She's just a funky little character. Katie Belle Snow, on the other hand, well, we're just gonna have to see on that, right? Tala is currently the space station, but you know, maybe that wasn't how she always was. But at the moment, her character description is more personality based. Aveline Lion was a very fun character as well. She's a very humanoid character. Out of all the like aliens, she could probably pass as a human if she like really wanted to. The big difference is she has like these tattoos and cracks or whatever you want to call them that like glow when she wants them to. Which I love like tattoos and stuff. So I really wanted something artistic. And so that was really fun.
Okay, this one also has an unknown source, but it came from either our Twitter or fan Discord. How big is the ship?
The ship is very large, actually. It has a lot of twists and turns and hidden passageways, but the ship is also designed for like extravagant big events, so it could easily fit a couple thousand people, like comfortably. It has so many hidden rooms and stuff you haven't even seen and will likely not see everything. But as you can see from my characters, they always tend to get lost in the halls and they have to have a map because it's just so big.
And last but not least, for Just Allie, which character's appearance came most easily to you?
The character appearance that came most easily to me was probably Galatea's because, and I'll go into this later, but she's very much inspired by the mythology Galatea, and so I really wanted to like play on that, so that's why has ivory skin and she's a very pale character because of the statue Galatea.
All right, that's all for the Allie only questions. On to a question for our sound editor from season 1, DELYNE. As the sound editor, can you talk about the process from script to final cut of making this show?
Okay, so disclaimer before I start this. I am not a professional in any way. I fell into this by accident and had never had any previous experience doing either, like script editing. I've edited, I'm a writer. But sound editing, no fucking clue. I'm making this shit up as I go. So definitely take what I say with a pinch of salt. This is definitely not the end all be all for how to, edit a podcast. And my methods change, and this is only what I do personally. So, like, just getting that out there. But as far as what the process usually looks like for this show, Allie and Arizona do their thing. They come up with a draft. They send it over to me. I go through, make comments, suggestions, edits, etc. We kind of ping-pong it back and forth for a little bit until we settle on a draft or a, final version of the script. And then we send it out to the actors. Actors sometimes do a read-through, sometimes don't, depending on availability. Everyone records separately, and then they upload their files to the Google Drive folder for the episode. So after everyone's recorded, I take all those files and I import them into Audacity because that's where I edit. And then I just arrange them based on what scenes they're in, or everyone has a different channel. So everyone gets separated lined up based on what scenes they're in. I go through each person's file individually and separate out the lines. Originally, I would also separate takes and choose takes during this part of the process, but now I wait until later. And then usually I'll just start finding sound effects at that point. Sometimes I do jump straight into the scene, but especially if it's a lot of sound effects that need to be found for the show, or if it's specifically in that one first scene, I'll go into freesound.org and I'll pull all the sound effects that I need for the episode, for the scene. There's a whole document where I just have copy-pasted links of sound effects that have been used in the show, so that's all there. And then, after the sound effects are found, I start the actual editing process. And for me, that looks like just importing things as needed and going through scene by scene. Usually I try to go chronologically because it's a pain in the ass to try to adjust things after the fact if you're going out of order. But every person gets their own channel. Everybody's walking and moving sound effects gets their own channel, which is a pain in the ass because then I end up with 70, no, it's an exaggeration. I think the most I've had is 42 channels, but that's a pain in the ass. Everyone gets their own walking channel / moving channel. And then there's channels for sound effects, stereo, mono, and then there's usually 2 for each just because of overlaying. Fight scenes get crazy because then that's a pain in the ass. Tala also before I cut that audio, that gets put into GarageBand where we apply the vocal filter that Tala has. Yeah, and then just scene by scene. The first version that I do choose line takes, I add in all of the effects, work out timing, and I reduce noise, and then I send that back to Ali in Arizona, get feedback, and then we kind of ping pong back and forth. So after the original like basic stuff is done, we go back and finish anything that's wonky with timing, readjust any takes that need to be done, etc. And then after that's all settled, then I'll start adding in the background noises and music, because again, it's a pain in the ass to try to adjust timing when you have a track underlaid. That's my experience. So I try to leave that for afterwards. And then finally I'll do volume and levels and making sure everything, isn't too spiky or whatever. And we just keep doing that until it sounds good and everyone agrees. And sometimes that means, it's only gone through 3 versions. And sometimes that means I've been up until, I've pulled a few all-nighters and we are at version 9 and it's still not done. So it can be a process. But yeah, once we settle on a final version, then I save it and and I upload it to the drive, and then we release it once it's time for the scheduled release. So yeah, I've probably forgot things, but that's pretty much how the editing process works for Dining in the Void. And if you guys have questions more about that, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Speaking of making the show, we've got some questions for our resident composer, Benny James. First off, which season 1 song is your favorite and why?
I really, really like lots of the songs that I made for season 1. Obviously, the theme song is one of my favorites. It got to the finalists of 2 of the music sections for the Audioverse Awards this year. And it didn't win, but that's okay because it got to the finals and I was just so shocked and really, really, really honored just to be up there. And I really like what I did with it after the revamp. I made it sound cooler and I'm just really proud with what I did with it. But I also really like Where No Light Escapes, the song I mentioned earlier from the season 1 finale scene, because it's just so dramatic and it's so cool. And I barely had to write anything new because it's mostly just the second half of the theme song, but cooler. So, yeah.
Don't give away all your secrets with this next one, but what's your process when creating music?
My process when creating music for Dining in the Void specifically, I talked to Ali, the creator, head writer, producer, my friend Ali. She basically comes to me and asks for specific songs to be played during an episode. Sometimes they're character themes. Sometimes they're just ambient tracks, like she wanted me to write a theme song for Katie Belle and, make it sound like she's a pirate, but in the stars, like a galaxy pirate. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then she's like, for this one, I need a love song between Waverly and yada yada. And I'm like, okay. So basically my inspiration and my process is basically take whatever mood and characters Ali needs for the show or for the scene, and I just basically sit down at a piano and I sit there for a couple hours and just dink around, because sitting down and deliberately trying to write music does not work for me. I just let something happen, and if I hear something I like, then I repeat it and then I build stuff around it. So the whole process is basically taking characters and emotions tied to what the music needs to be and just letting it grow from there. It's fun.
Tagging on to the end of that, any fun stories or fun facts about composing or recording the music you'd like to share?
One of the funnest facts, and yes, I say funnest, I like how I got to write Where No Light Escapes by basically creating a redo of the main theme song. Fun fact about the main theme song, though, I don't know if any of you have ever listened to the podcast They Say a Lot of Things. Sterling voices a character and they say a lot of things, but Sterling was also the person who pointed me in the direction of They Say a Lot of Things, and I auditioned to be their composer. And when I made a rough draft of a demo of what their theme song could be, it was the Dining in the Void theme song. The that do 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 do. That was what I sent them, and I'm like, that sounded really cool, and I made a little more around that. I didn't just send them 7 notes, and I'm like, there's your theme song. But I sent them that, and they're like, cool, no thanks, and they didn't give me the position, and so that's when Sterling introduced me to Allie, and then I sent her an improved version of that, and we worked together on it, and she's like, I really like it, be our composer. And so like, thank God that They Say a Lot of Things told me no, because now I get to be a part of Dining in the Void, and I got nominated for an award, and that's super stellar. That's awesome. And so, you know, getting rejected from a podcast is, you know, probably a good thing in the end. But yeah, that's basically all the fun facts I have to share. Dining in the Void's theme song could have been somebody else's, but they did not take it.
One last question for you, Benny. Where does the inspiration for your music come from? What inspires you when making music for this show?
I usually don't pick specific people that are my inspirations, because I feel like if I do that, I'm going to end up plagiarizing them on accident or on purpose. I don't know. But I do have specific like genres or, you know, like works of like cinema or TV that are really big influences, like specifically for Dining in the Void. It's really cool to write science fiction, mystery music, and getting a blend of those two genres together. I usually look at like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, which has a really good soundtrack, or Harry Potter, for like fantastical elements that really feel like it's otherworldly. But then I listen to, you know, like high drama TV shows and other things like that to get the real mystery intensity feel. And then when it comes to, you know, like individual pieces, like character themes like Katie Belle or for G, I just think about their character and I can relate them to a specific show or something I heard on a movie or a show that really relates to their character. And then I just put that into a song that hopefully isn't completely plagiarizing something else.
Next, we have one for Dylan about Sawyer. We know that Sawyer would do anything for Elory and G, but do you think he would ever choose his own life over theirs?
That's a tough one. Well, I do think that generally Sawyer can be a fairly selfish person. I think that Elory and G are just about the only two people in the galaxy that could make him not choose his life first. So I guess to answer the question more directly, no, I don't think he would ever choose his own life over theirs. I think theirs are the two lives in this galaxy that actually go before his. They really temper his selfishness, which is probably good in the long run.
Fascinating. On to the voice behind the good doctor. Emmett, how painful was Phoenix's death for Mars? How does that manifest in the way you play them?
Like, probably the single most painful thing that's happened to them. So, like, 100 out of 10. The way it manifests in the way I play Mars is it kind of consumes them. It's been years since it happened, so it's quite muted. But they're still really fucked up over it. And it's really affected everything they've done in life. And it still affects... It's made them the person they are today. Which isn't a person who's necessarily a good person, but it's who they are.
God, Phoenix's death was so sad. Whew, let's do a complete 180 and ask Sterling something happy. Sterling, what was it like winning an Audioverse Award?
Winning an Audioverse Award. Oh my god. Oh. I didn't expect it, like, at all. I didn't expect to make it to the finals, like, and then I saw myself there and I was up there with my good friend Benny, who does all the wonderful music for Dining in the Void. I was like, psh, if either of us is gonna win, it's gonna be Benny. Like, and I'm so excited. Like, I was so excited to, like, tell Benny, be like, oh my god, you won! And then I won! So, I'm really happy. I'm really grateful to everyone who voted. Thank you so much. But yeah, it was it was unexpected because I'm always someone who is hopeful for the best but expects the worst. or prepares for the worst, I guess. Because then, if something really cool happens, like you win an award, it's that much more exciting because you didn't set yourself up. Be like, oh, I'm totally gonna win, and then you lose. So, yeah, it was really exciting and really cool, and maybe now my parents will finally love me. No, I'm sorry, Mom, Dad, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I know you love me very, very much, and I'm sorry for making the joke for the internets.
Next up, we've got some questions for Bio. Since this is your first audio drama, how has the experience been so far? What advice would you give to actors just getting into the industry?
Well, I think it's been a very, very big learning opportunity. I've never been on a podcast before, and I've got to learn how recording works, how writing works, how editing works. I had to sharpen up a little bit of my skills in, well, all of those. So yeah, I think I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun. I think our cast is a very, very fun bunch, and I really enjoyed my experience. My advice to other actors who want to start being in a podcast, acting in a podcast, is just go for it. I was really, really afraid that I'm not going to get in, and to be honest, when I auditioned for Katie Belle, I thought I would never get the part. So when I actually got the message that told me that I am going to get callbacks, I was in shock, and when I actually got the part, I didn't know how to react. I never thought it was possible. So kind of go and do your best, because you always have a chance, you always have a shot, and I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You sent an audio clip to some people. That's it. Just go and try it.
Last but not least, among the main 7, here's a big one for Arizona. What has it been like to see Tala grow as an individual, and how do you think she'll continue to grow in the future?
I don't know how I feel about seeing Tala grow. I guess I'm proud of her. Although part of me still like, season 2, I want to see more. I feel like because of the number of guests there are, it's very hard to get deep, rich personal lives, writing-wise and in sort of pacing-wise for every single person. So I would hope with the start of a lot of these characters' arcs, including Tala's, that season 1's planted the groundwork, season 2 will continue to sort of sow and reap these sort of gardens of, this is going to sound pretentious, these gardens of character growth and development.
Next, we have the voice of the main antagonist. Well, besides the host, of course. This is for RHEA. What do you think motivates Joe?
You know what? I really don't know. I think the host has something on Joe, like either has a secret over Joe or has an offer. For me, I think the offer could be that Joe could be a part of the family. I don't know. The family is really intriguing me right now, and I feel like they're going to be a big part of what's happening in season 2. That's coming up very soon, which I'm so excited for. Or maybe, I don't know, like the host is holding something against Joe. But knowing Joe being very chaotic neutral to me, I think it's more the latter. I think it's, or the former, actually, the being offered something. And then I think also there may be some kind of internal motivation where Joe maybe has their own agenda against secrets, maybe has their own agenda about what is happening on that station.
All right, here's a big one for Cedric. How do you think Elory plays into the overall game? Is he just collateral damage, or do you think he may be more involved than he says?
I don't think that Elory plays too big a role into it. And I think mostly he is just collateral damage, but the fact that he brought his daughter there, I feel like that would be a very unwitting accomplice type of thing, because Sawyer was gone for a while. That's enough time to set up some kind of longer-term nanny, I feel. They're pretty well off. I'm surprised they don't have a nanny already. If he is involved in some way, I don't think he would quite know the degree to which he is involved.
Last but not least, from the cast of the first season, we'd like to hear from Vivian. What's it like playing a child character? Is there anything particularly challenging or fun about it?
It's not really that hard for me, other than like doing the voice and trying to make it sound realistic. It was pretty easy for me because I have 3 younger siblings, and one of them is a 7-year-old sister. I have a 7-year-old sister, and at the time I started recording the show, I think she was like newly 6. So a lot of G is based off of her. She's a good kid. I like her a lot. I love her a lot. But yeah, it wasn't really hard for me. I like being around kids. I work with kids a lot. I am still a kid. I'm only 15. But it's a lot of fun.
This is for the Season 1 writers who are Ali and Arizona. This is courtesy of Flickr on Discord. Please, I am begging you. Does Galatea have a type?
Yeah. Not you. I'm just kidding. No. I don't know. I mean, from a story perspective, I think she likes people who are okay with her complexity. Her type is, I think, of people who are somewhat more emotionally stable, but sometimes you get attracted to people who aren't your type. Like, I've been attracted to plenty of people that I don't consider my type, or, I realize later I have a type and then go, but what about this person? So I think, I don't know if Molly's responding to this, but from a writer perspective, I think it is up to interpretation.
Yes, Galatea does have a type. Maybe not so much as a physical type, though I'm sure she has a physical type, but personality-wise, she's in a industry that is probably filled with a lot of fake people, and she's looking for someone who is, like, genuine and real. Like with Tala, like, genuinely cares about Galatea and is not afraid to, like, be honest and open, and I think that really means a lot to Galatea, and, like, she realized that Tala was a real person and not just a useless piece of code. Like, she had thoughts and feelings, and probably more thoughts and more feelings than most people she works with, or at least feelings that she displays. And I believe the same was probably true about her 2 lovers who had disappeared. I imagine those 2 were also, like, very real and down to earth and stuff. 'Cause for as high and mighty as Galatea is, she's looking for something real.
Between you and me, I haven't been involved in this show very long, but I have seen a lot of love for Galatea, and I mean a lot. And honestly, I'm kind of on board with it too, but it's a little embarrassing to admit. So anyway, we now have a few questions for just the writers. Firstly, can you talk about the meaning or meanings behind the characters' names? I'm assuming this could be literal or metaphorical.
So in terms of the last names from a writer perspective, actually, forgive me if I forget any of them, but just kind of going in order. Aveline's last name, Lion, I don't know. That kind of seems like an anomaly because most of the other characters' names are that have last names are colors. So Lion feels kind of like an anomaly, which is interesting. Galatea's last name, Ivory, is kind of a double down on the fact that her first name means white as milk. In the original Greek, ivory again is a white color, and also refers to the fact that she is a white-skinned being and white-haired being. Mars's last name, Dr. Kobe. Kobe is actually like a really dark red. It's actually the approximate color of the surface of Mars, which again is a bit of a double down. So it's like calling your character Earth blue and green, or Pluto gray, it's sort of its own, it's almost a color. like the whole name itself is a type of red, you know? And then Sawyer Green being kind of a common American last name, but also like it's a little silly, not silly, but it's interesting that we have the businessman character who in the only rendition so far is seen wearing a green suit, which I think is kind of funny. He's the character who's all about money and is known for being a businessman. So it's kind of like calling your character Sawyer Money, which I think is amusing. And then Katie Belle Silver, silver being this sort of expensive metal, I guess, and the fact that she's this actress. I don't know if there was a particular reason for that. Again, I did not come up with the names of these characters. I could talk about the season 2 characters, but no spoilers. I'll just cover the rest of the characters. Joe, I believe Joe is just like a name that's pretty gender neutral. So there's that. Tala doesn't have a last name. At least not one that's come up in season 1. We're also learning more about Tala, so maybe she does have a last name. Elory, I believe Elory's... Elory, I believe, was named for a friend of Allie's. And Sawyer as well. G's full name, Gianna Griffin Green. I came up with a full name, actually. Gianna is the full name of one of my best friends, or one of my old best friends, sorry. We're not as close friends anymore because we kind of moved apart, but we're still kind of like online buddies, so that counts. Her middle name, as some of you who are frequenters of actual play D&D podcasts will probably guess, is named for your sweet, sweet baby brother, Griffin McElroy. And I did confirm that, I think, in the Dining in the Void fan Discord, but it's worth putting on record here that it is named after Griffin McElroy. Wherever you stand on the McElroy brothers, that's our sort of like tongue-in-cheek other podcast reference, among a couple others.
So I guess the most obvious thing is the colors for last names. I will admit that was very inspired by Clue, because Clue is a very like special story to me. And I wanted to like do a little nod at that. And every last name is a color. Like Cobe is a color. It's like a reddish color. Lion is a tannish color. So I really wanted to play on that because I thought that was like a nice little thing. Some of the character names are just because I like them, like Katie Belle and Sawyer. Aveline was actually originally going to be Aveline, like Madeline. But during our first recording, I think, like not recording, our first table read, I believe Ari was the one who changed it. Ari was just like, Aveline, and then everyone was responding with Aveline. I was like, you know what, we're just gonna roll with it. Like, it sounds cool. So that's how Aveline was named. Galatea Ivory was actually named after the statue Galatea, which was from a Greek mythology, and Greek mythology actually comes into play with a lot of characters and stuff. I love mythology, but Pygmalion, I believe that was his name, I'm butchering how to pronounce it, was a statue carver, and he created this beautiful woman of a statue, and he begged the gods, please give her life, because I love her so much. And then the gods made Galatea and become alive. And so I created Galatea, and she's a model because, you know, statues and models, and it's all very cheesy, but it was a lot of fun. Mars was named after the planet Mars, and Phoenix was named after a rover that went to Mars, because I wanted their names to be like related and space themed, which I think is really cute. Joe was named after my friend because I wanted a name, and I was like, hey, this name works. G was named after my best friend, whose nickname is also G, and I just wanted to do a little nod at her because she's one of my best friends and I love her so much. Waverly was named after Waverly Earp because I was watching Winona Earp at the time, and I was like, Waverly! So I named Waverly after her. Sirius Station was named Sirius Station because of constellations. It floats around Rigel A, which is part of the Orion constellation, and the Sirius constellation is also known as the Dog constellation, which is Orion's dog. And I thought it was like a cute little nod at how like the station is floating around the star as a dog might run around its master, or its human. And so that was just a really dumb little thing that I thought when I was naming that I came up with.
This is a bit more clerical and less writery. Can this show be put on Spotify?
Well, it can. After we got this question, Spotify actually announced a way easier way for podcasters to stick their podcast on Spotify. So we now are on Spotify, which we did basically within a couple hours, which is wonderful. And I don't want to say too much about Spotify because opinions, but we're there if you prefer Spotify. You're welcome.
Oh, hey. This next question is actually from Benny James, our composer. She asked, with no punctuation, "Hi, I know I'm part of the show, but I need to know who Galatea ended up shooting, and then I can die in peace." Real nice, Benny.
Benny, you could have asked Allie or myself, but it was the host that she shot, and the reason that we couldn't exactly say that completely, I think we kind of implied it, but Galatea didn't say, "I'm going to shoot the host," because the identity of the host is going to come up at the very beginning of season 2, very first episode. You're going to know. I promise. Trust me, it's like the first moment. So get hyped for that.
Galatea comes out of the story, shoots the entire cast and crew, and then runs away with Tala. That's not true, but that's the answer you're getting.
Finally, a more serious question, and sorry that we didn't keep track of who asked this, but thank you for asking it, because it is a big deal for a lot of us. It's admittedly nerve-wracking getting attached to gay characters considering all the instances of bury your gays out there. Can we trust that Sawyer and his family aren't gonna be tragic gays?
Oh gosh, this question really is important, and thank you so much for asking this. Actually, one of the reasons why I made this show is because of the bury your gays or tragic gay tropes, because I was seeing so many of those, with like The 100 and Arrow, and I don't even have the list in my head anymore because I'm just so over it. I wanted more positive representation and I wanted more gay characters because all the characters on TV are freaking straight. Like, come on, man. Make some, add a little bit of color in there. So I'm not going to confirm or deny deaths of characters, but I think a good way to answer this question is I'm very mindful of this trope, and I really don't want to play into that trope because it's just so heartbreaking. So yeah, they're not going to be a bury your gays trope.
In terms of plot armor, Sawyer and his fam definitely have it on. For those of you who don't know what that means, basically, like, they're not gonna die. But I will go on record and say that it's a little more difficult with bury your gays when everyone is kind of gay. And some characters have established sexualities and some don't yet. Like Galatea, we haven't established yet, but season 2, we are going to actually put on record what her label is. And Tala's is revealed in the first interim episode, which is a bit of a spoiler, but it does come up. And on the website, most of the characters have sexualities, but not all of them have been established in canon. But I think it's safe to assume that because your 2 writers are queer, that a lot of the characters in the show are queer and or trans. And it's a little more complicated in that, is it a bury your gays trope if everyone's a gay character? Because what I've mostly seen that for is for when you have the one gay character, that character tends to be the one that dies first. It happens in the descent. I think it's coded. I don't think it's explicit that character is gay, but the more kind of like butch, almost lesbian type character that happens. That's one example. And I I also despise the bury your gays trope, because if you bring in a gay character just to kill them off for emotional impact, that doesn't do shit. But this is a show that is very dark, and I know Allie is really hesitating about actually killing any of them. I'm like, let's kill them all. Which is why I'm not writing season 2. Is why I'm stepping down, because I'm like, kill everyone. In short, we can't guarantee that everyone's going to make it to the end of season 2, but we do know that trope, and we are trying to be as sensitive as we can. Keep in mind that we're not the only show out there. There are a lot of really wonderful shows like Inkwam that do pretty explicit like queer and trans representation, and those characters do not die. This is not me trying to excuse it possibly happening. I can't say for certain, partly because we're still working on season 2. I do understand the fear, and I completely, I totally agree. But again, pretty much everyone's gay on this show, so I will give Sawyer and his fam the all clear just to make it a little easier on you. But again, that's kind of spoilery. And if there ends up being any kind of death, we're going to be as careful about it as we can. And if there is death, there is a reason for it.
Okay, we have a hot topic that we're going to tackle from 2 different angles. From the creator's angle, Allie, can you tell us at what point did you know or figure out who the host was?
All right, so fun fact about this. Originally, there were only going to be 5 guests. But I decided really early on who I wanted the host to be, because I wanted their personality to, based off that. All the personalities to the characters were, described early on and have grown from there. But I knew from almost the beginning who the host was. And lo and behold, there was another character board because of that. And if you want to know who that character is, go ahead and guess. And maybe if we do another Q&A after season 2, I will tell you. But yeah, I knew pretty early on who the host was going to be.
You all may not know this, but not everyone in the show actually knows who the host is. So for the 4 of you, I've got to ask, who do you think the host is?
I think the host is me. I think I'm the host. There's been a person composing and playing music underneath every scene of Dining in the Void, and that person is the host, and therefore it is I. I am the cruel, unforgiving god that is the host.
Surprise, it's me, Emmett Moon. I'm secretly in control of the space station. Ha ha ha. No, legit though, I really don't know. I deliberately made Nikki and Ari just not tell me, because my character probably doesn't know, I didn't want to know. I basically said to them, if Mars knows, tell me. If Mars doesn't know, I don't want to know. Because my stance on it is there'll be a more authentic reaction if I don't know ahead of time what's going to happen. So, yeah, I've no idea.
So, similarly to the Galatea question, I think that the host is someone who hasn't been introduced yet. I don't think it's anyone on that ship, at least that we can see. There was a comment that Joe made where they were saying that they were abandoned by their master, and I think that master might have been in the room, but not able to be seen by anyone, so maybe it's kind of an outlandish theory, but I'm sticking with it.
Okay, this is where I'm really gonna stretch myself thin and put out probably a conspiracy theory. Why not? I think that the host is not one person. I think, especially considering the first question was saying the host may have possible identities. Now this is really formulating in my head, and I really think that the host is a hive mind. I don't think it's one single person. I think it's like a hive mind, a unified consciousness that has tapped its way into more than one person on the Sirius station to carry out this elaborate plan. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the family that Tala had explained of wanting to be a part of. I think when she talked about it with Galatea in episode 11. I don't know. There's just something about it. Like, especially when, I think, was it episode 1 where Tala said that there's only 6 people on the station and it's just it's the dinner guests, but Joe wasn't counted. Tala doesn't really know how many people are on the ship. And I just really, but there has to be a possibility that they're on the ship already. So with a hive mind, you could be stationed somewhere else, but you have that connection with everybody else on the ship. So you could still use people on the ship to carry out your plans, even if you're safe far away. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. That's just my idea. It's just not one person who's the host. Everyone's being manipulated. Everyone's being played. No one is safe.
Now I'm going to open it up for those in the cast and the crew who actually know who the host is. No spoilers, guys. At what point did you all know who the host was?
I can't remember when exactly, but it was before I started writing. I remember that. Allie said in the dressing room chat, who wants to know who the host is? And I was like, please tell me, I want the secrets. And she told me, and I was like, I knew it, I fucking knew it.
Okay, so fun story about that one. I originally was very invested in trying to figure out who the host was myself. I very much like puzzles and detective work, and so I was all fucking for this. I had a spreadsheet. It was crazy, and I think at some point I'm gonna like finish filling in what I had and then like release it, and so you guys can see like those connections and also just some like original like brainstorming. And then 2 days after episode 1 goes up, because I was part of the team that like figured out how the fuck to get episode 1 released, and that was a fucking nightmare. So because of that, on the server, on the Discord server, I was given a role so that I could, communicate with like the people who were like in actual production. And that role allowed me to see channels that were not actor specific, including the writing channel. And I have this dumb compulsive habit where if there were things to be read, I have to read them. So, yeah. I went back through the writing channel, and we had like really old brainstorming, and it outlined who everybody was and who the host was. And that's how I found out. Oh God, if you ask Allie or Arizona, I sent them some very panicked messages upon finding this out, and they just laughed at me. And it was hilarious, and I was actually very upset because I'd invested a lot of emotional energy into this, and like a lot of shit wasn't going right at that point, so it was just very upsetting. But now it's very fucking funny, and they make fun of me, and I make fun of me. And that is how I found out who the host was.
I think I knew who the host, well, I guess it's not really fair because I was just told who the host was. I didn't figure it out on my own, but I was given that information, I want to say around the time we were recording episode 2 or 3. I think that's when I learned who the host was. I think if you listeners have been paying attention, you might have a good hint, a good guess already.
So I actually could not for the life of me guess who that was, and after some begging, our producer, writer, and basically the inventor of the show, Ali, has been convinced to tell me who it is. I will say that I had a lot of fun learning that, and I think our viewers, our listeners, really, would have fun too.
I think it was pretty early on I am a longtime friend of the creator of the show, and that's actually how I got cast. They were just like, hey, I wrote a kid character. You want to play the kid character? And I was like, hell yeah. But I read ahead pretty early. As soon as the last episode was written, I think I read it. And that was when I figured out who the host was. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. It was really well written out, and I even reading through it, I was like, wow, all right. But yeah, I think it'll be nice for the listeners to figure out who it is.
Last but not least for this Q&A, this question is from Ruthsick on Discord. What do you think will be the overwhelming fan reaction to the reveal of the host's identity or identities?
I think the overwhelming reaction is going to be very, very funny to watch. I think some people are going to be like, yes, I knew it. And other people are going to be like completely shocked. It's going to definitely be a big mix of reactions, but it's going to be really fun.
I don't know if there's going to be an overwhelming reaction. I feel like it depends on if you thought somebody was the host and you're either proven right or proven wrong, you're going to have a different reaction to it. I feel like I would hope people like it. That sounds like a very non-committal answer, but I think it may surprise a lot of people. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to give too much away.
I think some people are going to be very happy. I think some people are going to be a bit devastated. It's going to be chaos, and I'm all for it.
I think my prediction for the reaction of fans to when the host gets revealed or hosts get revealed, I genuinely don't know. I'm really hoping that all the fans are genuinely shocked or surprised, because the whole thing about the host is that it's a mystery, and I really would hate for fans to be able to call it or like predict who it's going to be and not be surprised. I mean, you can obviously make predictions as to who the host is. That's kind of the fun of it. But when the host or hosts actually get revealed, I really hope everybody is like genuinely surprised, like they did not see that coming. And that means that we did it. We've successfully made the mystery and fooled everybody.
Ooh. I don't know how people are going to react. I don't really want to say surprised, because there have been a lot of little hints that when you know who the host is, they're like little clever little things that you wouldn't think, but they're there. So I don't really know if it will really be 100% surprise, but I think it will be a little bit of a, wait, oh, now those lines make sense. Because the host or hosts, it's not as obvious as you would think, but it's not quite as hidden as you would think. So it's there. It's just middle ground there. And it'll be interesting to see how everyone reacts. I'm excited.
I have absolutely no idea. I deliberately didn't find out who the host is, because my character probably doesn't know. Therefore, I don't know. It could even be me for all I know. So I have no idea what the fan reaction is going to be. I don't know. It'll be the same as my reaction, so get back to me when we find out who they are.
I'm not going to lie to you. I never even considered that the host may have multiple identities. Never even considered that. And now that I have that idea in my head, I am like freaking out. I think the fan reaction is going to be like, it's going to be a little bit hectic and crazy, because when it comes to mystery and people trying to figure out mysteries, we all have our theories and everything. And sometimes we want ourselves to be correct. And then when we find out we're kind of wrong, it's like we got to go back and figure out how everything pieces together. We want to know the clues hiding in plain sight. But I think it'll overall be like positive, not too bad. I think it'll be hectic because people are trying to piece it together, but overall it'll be positive. It'll be fun.
I mean, like I said, I think the fans who have been paying attention will have called it, but I think the hints are pretty subtle, so I hope it'll make sense. But I mean, that's part of a big reveal. Sometimes it's a big twist, and sometimes people called it for 10 episodes. So I hope the fans will like it.
I think the overwhelming fan reaction will be surprise. Now, maybe I'm only saying that because I don't know who the host is yet, but I like to think that people don't actually know yet.
I think I was a bit sad when I figured out who it was when I read the script. I was like, man, wish it wasn't that person, but you know, I think that's gonna be the fan reaction too. It's gonna be like, why?
Well, I think they're gonna be very, very intrigued. I do think that Dining in the Void is a show that's very concentrated on mystery. And the fan base has really, really gathered around many fan theories and ideas about solving the mystery. And I think it would be very, very interesting to see kind of the regrouping from that. I think it's going to change a lot of minds and perceptions, and to be honest, I can't wait to see how everybody takes it and reacts to it.
And with that last one, that's all the questions we have. To everyone listening from all of the cast and crew, thank you again for all your support. We couldn't have gotten this far without you, and we really enjoyed answering your questions. Make sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcasting app, or follow us on Twitter at Dining in the Void, or on Tumblr at Dining in the Void Podcast. To learn where else to find us, please check the description. Our next bonus episode will come out sometime in April, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening!